Welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. And thank you for making justice #1 again last Saturday night. Congressman Lee Zeldin, Ron DeSantis, and Governor Mike Huckabee among my guests on a busy Saturday night, plus street justice straight from CPAC. But first, my opening statement. The woman is even dumber than I thought. It must be because she has nothing else to do. This week, my favorite ex-politician, Hillary Clinton, put out this tweet. Quote, I say this as a former Secretary of State and as an American. The Russians are still coming. Our intelligence professionals are imploring Trump to act. Will he continue to ignore and surrender or protect our country? Say what? Hillary, the Russians are still coming? You're kidding, right? Did you fall asleep during this movie?
You see, that is how we got to America.
The Russians have landed.
This whole dang island's under attack by Russia. The Russians have captured the airport.
It's all over. It's all over. We haven't got a chance, not a chance.
Fire until you see the light. Get out of the way. It's Agnes drill.
Those crazy Americans, all we wanted was boat to pull our submarine off the reef and go home.
And Hillary, our intelligence professionals are imploring Trump to act? Where'd you get that from? You don't even have a security clearance. Not that it mattered when you did have one. And by the way, if you're talking about NSA Director Mike Rogers, he testified this week that our government was taking steps to combat Russian interference, but probably not enough, which is a hell of a lot better than opening up your emails like an orchid like you did to every hacker out there. And when Mueller indicted 13 Russians for interfering in the 2016 election, a lot of the cases went back to 2014. And Obama simply failed to act, thinking as long as it benefited you, Hillary, why interfere? And if you're worried about Putin bragging about Russia's military might against the U.S., keep in mind, Hillary, Putin's running for office. He's going to say whatever he thinks is necessary to win. No one should understand that better than you. Remember?
To just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up.
And by the way, Putin himself wasn't much too happy with you when you interfered in his election. You and the Democrats have used Russia as an excuse for not winning. The Russians are fed up with us, so Putin unites his country by going after the common enemy. Hillary, who do you think you're kidding? You're the one who did the reset button with Russia. You wanted to make pals with them. And your comrade in arms, Barack Obama, had his famous off-mic moment with Medvedev.
This is my last election, basically. Yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah.
And I transmit this information to Vladimir.
The Russians had more access to our elections when you were in power, and your buddy Obama, when it came out that he knew about the hacking and the possible impact on the election, when he was in a position to do something about it, by the way, he says he told Putin to cut it out. And when the Russians hacked the DNC's emails, including yours, exposing you as the two-faced liar that you are, you wouldn't even cooperate with the FBI's investigation. And Hillary, you ask if Trump will continue to ignore and surrender? Honey, ignoring and surrendering was when you and Bill sold 20% of our natural resource uranium to the Russians with a payback of $145 million to your foundation and $500,000 cash in your hubby's pocket. You surrendered one of our most important natural resources used to make Molly 99, the essential element in nuclear medicine used to diagnose and treat 45 million people a year. And you want to criticize Donald Trump? Unlike you and Bill, Donald Trump can't be bought. And you ask, will the president protect our country? He's not like your philandering husband who gave billions to Kim Jong-un's father to not build a nuclear weapon. That worked out really well now, didn't it? Donald Trump is the only president with the guts to not only send the mother of all bombs into Afghanistan to strike chemical weapon plants in Syria with surgical precision, but also go toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un to the point where that wackadoo has become a laughing stock. And unlike Obama, who reduced our military every chance he could, Donald Trump has committed $700 billion to rebuild our armed forces so that he can protect the country that your husband and your comrade Barack made more vulnerable. So if you're so convinced the Russians are still coming, why didn't you do something about it when you were in office instead of being the cash receptacle for every corrupt Russian looking to bribe you and make money in this country? Hillary, it's got to be tough being you. You used all the money you illegally took from foreign powers to create a false dossier against Donald Trump. You got fed debate questions, deleted 33,000 emails, and yet you still lost to someone you say isn't fit to be president. I got an idea, honey. Since you're so good at selling uranium to foreigners and our enemies, maybe you can buddy up with your Clinton Foundation friends to sell the rest of our uranium to the Russians. On second thought, just get back into the woods. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, #Judge Jeanine. And to our other big story tonight, Attorney General Jeff Sessions under fire by President Trump again. And now 13 Republicans have asked the AG this week to appoint a separate special counsel to investigate the FBI and the Department of Justice. Congressman Lee Zeldin is leading the charge, and he joins me now along with Congressman Ron DeSantis. And thanks to both of you for being here tonight. All right, Congressman Zeldin, the first thing I'm going to ask you is that you sent a letter to Attorney General Sessions, and you said what we want is a special counsel. Attorney General Sessions says, no, I want to have the IG take a look at this. The president wasn't much too happy, and you weren't happy. Why?
Well, you can't expect the DOJ and the FBI to investigate themselves. If you want to find misconduct, well, while everyone tries to put the president and his family through hell because they won an election, that's why there's an investigation going on, even though there's no evidence of any crime. If you want to actually get to misconduct, we look at the FISA abuse, the how and why the Clinton probe ended, the how and the why the Trump-Russia probe even began. There's all sorts of evidence of all different kinds of crimes.
Okay, but you say the FBI and the DOJ shouldn't investigate themselves, but what Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, wants to do, and McCasey agrees with him, is to have the Inspector General do it. Now, he's not part of the DOJ or FBI, is he?
I think there's great value added with the Inspector General doing his work and being able to get access to all sorts of different documents and bring additional facts to life. But you're going to need a special counsel in order to hold accountable. This isn't just about transparency. It's also about accountability. There are individuals who are at the highest levels of the Obama DOJ and the FBI who are responsible for a FISA abuse, for example, not telling the FISA judges that the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for that dossier, that unverified
all right.
dossier.
We know what the abuses are, and I couldn't agree with you more. But the question that I have, and I'm going to go to Ron DeSantis on this, is the president comes out, he says, I want a special counsel. And the Attorney General says, no, I'm going to have the IG do it. President says, wait a minute, IG takes too long. He's behind schedule right now with what he's doing. And the IG has no prosecutorial powers. And yet there are some people who are agreeing with him. And I'm not sure what Devin Nunes's position is on this. Are you?
Oh, I think Devin Nunes is supportive, like we all are, of appointing a special counsel, because just think of what we've uncovered in the last 7 or 8 months with this investigation. I mean, you have people like Comey, who testified before Congress that he didn't make any judgments on Hillary's case until the very end, and now we know they wrote a memo exonerating her 2 months before. We know Comey leaked memos, one of which at least had classified material. We know Christopher Steele probably lied to the FBI.
Okay.
We know Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. So here's the thing, Judge. There's more basis to think that criminal statutes were violated with those individuals, then there was a basis to appoint a special counsel for Trump-Russia collusion. So do we have equal justice under law?
No,
or
but
does
Jeff
Trump
said,
get...
Ron, Congressman, you know I love you. I admire everything you're doing, both of you. You come here, you talk to my viewers. We keep saying Jeff Sessions has to do it, and he won't do it. And in a show of support, Jeff Sessions goes out with Rod Rosenstein after the president tweets in a show of, solid unification, the two of them. What are we going to do? The president's not going to get rid of Sessions because he doesn't want to go through another thing like he did with Comey. What's going to happen?
You have 535 members of Congress. We sent a letter this week that has 13 House Republicans signing the letter. It is important for more members of Congress to get behind this effort, for more people amongst the American public demanding this type of accountability. While we are taking care of, there are individuals, while the president's hand was on the Bible taking the oath of office, the inaugural parade route was lined up with people calling for his impeachment right away.
Right.
They have pledged to oppose, obstruct him on everything and anything, saying you can't work with him because if you work with him, that's legitimizing his presidency. So they're putting the president and his family through hell with no evidence of any crime. The American public needs to demand a second special counsel.
Yeah, well, tell them who to write a letter to, because there's like 2.5 million watching now. Congressman DeSantis, let me ask you this. Even the president didn't go as far as you guys to ask for a special counsel. He was kind of modulated on this, saying, why not just use Justice Department lawyers? What did you think of that?
Well, look, I would rather have that than the IG, because a Justice Department prosecutor could at least bring criminal charges against people who violated the law. And if the evidence is there to do that, that is something that needs to be done. The reason why I think a special counsel is preferable is because at the end of the day, bureaucracies defend themselves. And I think it's much more difficult to put somebody in DOJ in that position to investigate high-ranking people in justice and FBI. If you got someone from outside the swamp that didn't have any allegiance to this, I think that individual could come in, call balls and strikes, upset the apple cart, and finally people would be held accountable. So that's what we have to do, and I think that's what the American people want after watching all these many months of all these facts spilling out.
Okay, and you know what is frustrating is this guy Horowitz, the Inspector General, Congressman Zeldin, is worked with Jim Comey. In fact, I think he worked under Jim Comey in the Southern District. So what we have is, even in this Inspector General, you've got someone with no prosecution powers, no grand jury, and a guy who worked for Comey and is part of that establishment. I mean, can't they go to, like, Iowa or somewhere and get someone who isn't part of that establishment?
And Ron and I were in the military. There's something that we would call force multipliers. The Inspector General can be a force multiplier in bringing additional facts to the public. But for these great these are legendary agencies, important agencies, with a whole lot of people up and down the ranks who are there because they love their country and they're doing it for all of the right reasons. So the Inspector General has the ability to provide additional value added and additional information that's necessary.
But I'm not willing to wait.
You should not have to wait. The President of the United States shouldn't have to wait. The American public shouldn't have to wait.
Okay.
So you have Ron DeSantis, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Louis Gohmert. There are a bunch of members who are leading this charge.
And my viewers so admire what you're doing. At least you're talking about it. Ron, you're running for the governor of Florida now, correct?
That's right.
Okay. So you're going to be gone at some point, right? So what can you do, or what do you expect to be done before you leave?
Well, that's why I think a special counsel, not that you'd have a charge tomorrow, but the Congress has done a lot of work. There's a lot of fact pattern that's been generated, and this counsel can take that, and then they can present that information to a grand jury. The IG is going to take a long time, issue a report, and then at that point, we may be 1 or 2 years down the road. So if you at least start it now, we have a hope of getting some accountability in the very near future. And there's a lot of facts that have come out, Judge. Yeah. This is not starting a case from scratch. There's been good work done in the Congress, and now's the time to seize that initiative and enforce the law as written.
The very good point. And there has been a lot of good work by, FOIA, congressional requests. But I think the American people see the dragging by the FBI and DOJ. All right, Congressman Zeldin and Congressman DeSantis, thanks so much for being with us tonight. And Governor Mike Huckabee, Street Justice from CPAC, and more are still on deck. Plus, Robert Mueller continues his wild Russian goose Chase, but the real foreign influence in today's elections have been ignored for years. J. Christian Adams is standing by with information you need to hear. That's next as Justice rolls on. Welcome back to Justice. My next guest believes the real foreign influence in our elections has been ignored by the Department of Justice for years. Former Department of Justice whistleblower J. Christian Adams joins me now to explain. All right, Christian, thanks so much for being with us tonight. Now, when our government says illegals don't vote, and they tell us that all the time, is that a lie?
Well, it's certainly not true, because I can give you name after name after name of foreign citizen in Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas, all of whom have been casting ballots, usually in presidential elections.
Okay, so that is illegal, correct?
Multiple federal felonies and misdemeanors, at least 9 years in federal prison when an illegal or a non-citizen registers and votes.
All right, so explain to my viewers how an illegal can register and then vote. How does that happen?
It's the honor system all over the country because of motor voter. You know, when you go to DMV, all they got to do is check a box and say they're a citizen and they get on the rolls. Sometimes, Judge, I've got stacks of voter registration forms where people actually say, yes, I'm a non-citizen, and they still get registered to vote.
Okay. All right. Now, foreigners, by the way, how do you find this out?
I just ask. I use the motor voter law. Like we just sued Pennsylvania this week to get the data, but I went to Pittsburgh and I got the data. I got records. They're right there, public records. You get them. These are people who self-reported, and that's the issue. We only know the ones who turn themselves in. There's tons of them already still on the rolls that didn't turn themselves in.
Okay, now I recall speaking to you in the past, and I recall you're saying that there were more registered voters in one county than there were actual people living in the county.
One county, try 160. There's 160 counties with more people on the voter rolls, at least 160. The number's probably higher than actually live in those counties.
Okay, so is this a result of the, do any of them vote in the names of dead people?
Absolutely. Just had a trial in Broward County this year, sued Broward County. And, you know, all over Broward County, you have dead people on the rolls. We have a case in Texas. We have a case in Pennsylvania where you're finding people who've been dead sometimes 20 years. One person died in 1946
He's still
in one
voting?
of our cases.
He's still voting.
Well, he was still on the rolls, and there are dead people who vote. That's correct.
All right, so why aren't these voter rolls cleaned up so when someone dies, their name gets taken off the book?
Well, part of the problem is motor voter. Remember in '93, that was a Bill Clinton top priority, and motor voter restrains the ability to clean the rolls, but it makes it easy for non-citizens to get on our American voter rolls. But, Judge, what's happened in a lot of places is dereliction of duty. Election officials aren't doing their job and getting the rolls clean, and then they don't prosecute voter fraud when they find out about it.
Well, you know, I wondered about that. And wasn't the president trying to put together a voter fraud commission, and the secretaries of state across the country wouldn't work with the commissioner?
Right. I was on the commission, so I can tell you firsthand that you had this. Look, there are a lot of people who get a lot of money whose job is to deny voter fraud occurs. They are voter fraud deniers. The Brennan Center for Justice, Soros funded. Advancement Project, Soros funded. Demos, Soros is funding all of these organizations to tell you that voter fraud's a myth, to lie, to hide, to trick the American public into thinking it's the return of Jim Crow to even talk about it. Yeah. They're not telling the truth. It's real, it's out there, and it needs to be dealt with by the Justice Department.
Okay, so while we've got Mueller going after Russia, and their interference with our election, the truth is that there are illegals voting, and that is certainly foreign interference that is going unprosecuted across the country.
I have personally sent the Justice Department bow-tied packages of easy prosecutions of non-citizens who've been voting in elections in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, in Texas, and for eight years during Obama, and so far, they've done absolutely nothing about it. Oh. It's an easy prosecution. It's the real foreign influence in our elections.
Okay, I'm going to ask you really quickly. Inspectors General, you worked in the Justice Department. Are they political animals?
Absolutely. I was very intimately involved in one Inspector General investigation, and I can tell you that the political animals inside the IG's office edited the report significantly about the misconduct in the voting section at the DOJ where I worked. They edited the final draft to make it look like it wasn't as bad.
Sad stuff. All right, J. Christian Adams, thanks so much for advising us on this.
Thanks, Judge.
All right, and if you missed this year's CPAC, I'll take you there for some street justice coming up. And next, the panel is primed and ready for action. Katrina Pearson and Jose Aristimuño standing by for a fiery debate. Justice will be back in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Marianne Rafferty. President Trump arriving back in Washington this evening. He spent the day in Florida playing a game of golf at Trump International Golf Course early in the day ahead of a fundraising event at his Mar-a-Lago home resort. Trump is attending the Gridiron Dinner tonight, an annual white tie gathering of members of the Washington media. The president skipped the event last year, sending Vice President Pence in his place. And teachers in West Virginia promising to continue their strike. Classrooms in the state already sitting empty for 7 days now. The three teachers' unions in the state stand united in their rejection of a bill passed by the Senate. The state Senate bill offered a 4% pay increase, which is lower than the 5% deal teachers negotiated with Governor Jim Justice. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice had a message for Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff.
I've spent a lot of time in Washington, and I know you've got a really hard job, and I appreciate what you're doing for the country, but I really hope you can wrap it up. The country needs to get back to business, so that's my greatest hope.
I wonder if he'll take the advice. My political panel ready to weigh in, battle it out. Joining me tonight, former Trump campaign spokesperson Katrina Pearson and former DNC Deputy Press Secretary Jose Aristimuño. All right, guys. Now, what I find shocking about that, and I'll go to you, Jose, and welcome to Justice, is that the audience from The View actually applauded Condi Rice when she said, "Get this done." What did you think of that?
Look, I think that's fine. The Russia investigation needs to come to an end. But this is not a Republican issue. This is not a Democratic issue. We need to know what happened. Robert Mueller needs to get to the bottom of this. And we'll see. Time will tell. But I'm in agreement that we need to come to the bottom of this investigation once and for all.
All right, Katrina?
Well, you know, Judge, I was just as surprised as you are at the applause that Condoleezza Rice received at that audience. But I think he should take notice, and I think he is definitely trying to find a way out of this, because it seems the further this investigation goes, the more closer it gets to the Democrats being involved. And, you know, it's not a partisan issue when it comes to influencing our elections. But this, however, is absolutely a partisan issue. This is something that was launched with the intent to silently overthrow the sitting president of the United States because they were unhappy with the outcome of the election.
All right, Jose, you know, you were a press secretary, I mean, for the DNC deputy, whatever. And, you know, so now we find out that the DNC and the Clinton campaign paid for a dossier that the head of the FBI, James Comey, said was unverified and salacious. And the truth is, you're not supposed to go to a judge without corroborating evidence to get a FISA warrant. How do you cover that up? I mean, how do you explain it?
I mean, this is not about covering anything up. The fact of the matter is that the Russians were in communications with the Trump administration. We know I mean, there is clear evidence that the Russians were emailing back and forth with Trump's son-in-law, with others, with advisors in the administration. They were trying to reach out time and time again.
Or a Russian, because that's completely different. We're talking about colluding with the Russians, as in the Russian government, to influence the election. There is zero evidence of that. Adam Schiff has even
true.
said that there isn't evidence of that, because if there were, we would be hearing indictments by now with the leaks that go on in the Department of Justice and the FBI. We would have been told something at this point, but there's nothing.
Okay, Jose, let me ask you this. 13 people have been indicted by Robert Mueller. Okay, Russians interfering with our election. They're all in Russia. None of them are going to be extradited. They haven't been arraigned, and I bet my house that none of them will be convicted. So where is the collusion? I mean, it's like a year and a half. I mean, I was a prosecutor. You can't do this for a year and a half.
I mean, it's going to take time. This is a big investigation. And look, the funny thing about this whole thing, Judge, is that I know, you know, the primary evidence was supposed to be Russia collusion, but they're finding a lot of shady business when it comes to finance and economics with the oh, come on, not true. No, with the Trump administration.
$145 million for our uranium? Are you kidding?
Okay, let's not. I mean, don't get me started with the Trumps and all the business that they do with the Russians.
You do? Tell me about it. Hit me.
I'm telling you right now. I mean, there's clear evidence that Trump and Kushner and his son-in-law and all these folks have been doing business with the Russians for a very long time.
What business? I mean, I'm confused here because we're supposed to be having a debate here, and I have no idea what you're talking about. There's been zero reports noted. There's been zero evidence. Not even in the Democrat memo was there any substance to what you're saying. So please share with the audience tonight what that evidence is.
Wait a minute. Give me the name of the Russians that Trump was colluding with. Give me their names.
It's not about the names. The evidence
because you
is
don't
out
have
there.
them.
Well, what is the evidence?
I don't have it in front of me, but what I can tell you is this. It's clear that the Russians try to influence the Trump campaign since day one. They spend millions of dollars on Facebook advertisement, on fake news. You guys know this very, very well. Katrina, you know this is true. I mean, these are the facts. Millions of dollars. The Russians trying to influence the Trump campaign.
These are the facts. The facts are, if you have an internet connection, you can set up an account. You don't have to be Russian. You could be anything. We don't know if maybe there were Chinese people that set up a Facebook account that supported and opposed the president. We know the facts show that these are the same people that were organizing against the president of the United States.
They were organizing against him. Come on.
No,
get your facts right. If you're going to come on Justice, you got to get your facts right. All right, let's move to something else. Jim Comey or I should say, this is the head of the FISA court, the presiding judge. What should she be doing about the fact that there was this dossier that was a political made-up fake document that was presented to her court, Jose? Should she demand that there be an explanation by the FBI and the DOJ as to fraud or contempt upon the court?
Look, I can tell you this. In this whole with the FISA investigation and everything that's happened, we know that the president is talking about, you know, attacking Sessions and saying, hey, there's an Obama guy that's taking care of this investigation. That doesn't matter whether the investigator, inspector general is an Obama guy, but by the way, he also served under Bush. That doesn't matter because they're serving the Constitution. These are Americans.
That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you about whether the FISA judge, the presiding judge of the FISA court, should demand some explanation from the Department of Justice and the FBI for coming before that secretive court and presenting uncorroborated evidence.
Look, I can tell you that the president is trying to get involved in all sort of distractions instead of leading the country forward. That's what I can tell you.
She should absolutely demand some form of acknowledgement from the DOJ and the FBI, simply because this is the FISA court. These are the people that are violating the rights of American citizens, and that information that they use was uncorroborated and unverified, which is what's leading to this potential criminal probe on that end. The American people need to know what happened. There are suggestions that President Trump should declassify the actual application on Carter Page just so we can see exactly what they used, because it might be time to end the FISA court and look at something different.
All right, Jose, let me ask you this. All right, Carter Page, they get a surveillance order. They go to the FISA court, and the first time the FISA court, I think in June, says no. Then October they get it, and then another 3 months and another 3 months. Now, if Carter Page is worth being surveilled, and then there's more probable cause and more probable cause for extension of that warrant, why is this guy walking around free? Why hasn't he been indicted if they can go a year surveilling this guy and he hasn't done a darn thing?
It takes time. Investigations take a long time. We should respect the right departments who are taking care of this investigation. It might take a year. It might take a year and a half. That doesn't matter.
It's been 2 years.
That's the way our system works. It's slow operated because we got to make sure to get to the evidence.
That's not the way the system works. This particular system works because the FBI and the DOJ convinced a FISA court that Carter Page was acting on behalf of the Russian government. So, Judge, you're absolutely right. If there was anything here, Carter Page should have been the first person to be indicted. And in fact, he's walking around, which goes to show you there's something else going on here, and it's corruption at the highest level. And we, the people, need to be demanding answers and not waiting on an inspector general to provide another report because the House Intelligence Committee has already provided the report.
Yeah, in another year and a half. Katrina Pearson, Jose Aristimuño, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, and you're going to love this. My special guest for this week's Outrageous Comment segment, Governor Mike Huckabee. And you'll hear his take on all the craziness this week from Joy Behar, Chelsea Handler, and the lot of them. Don't miss this. It's up next. The crazy just keeps on coming from our friend Joy Behar. Here's her latest attack on Republicans. Take a listen.
There's this like penchant for Nazis now, you know, with Charlottesville and the Neos, and they're good guys on both sides, and now Marine Le Pen. It's like a lot of the people in the Republican Party that I remember, Bill Buckley, who fought in World War II, you know, Bill Kristol, those people who are so anti-Nazi are appalled by what's going on right now within this party.
And that's just one of the most outrageous things I heard this week. Joining me now with a reaction to that and much more, former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor Mike Huckabee. All right, good evening, Governor. You know, she said, in addition to what we just bumped in with, she said that the conservative CPAC conference participants had a penchant for Nazis. Now, I was a keynote speaker at CPAC this year. I mean, is she out of her mind? Or, I mean, why do people buy that?
Well, I don't think people do buy that, Judge. I mean, when Joy Behar makes these statements, she is fulfilling Godwin's law, and that is that famous law that says that when people start getting online and they go into an argument and it degenerates, that at some point someone will bring up either Hitler or the Nazis, and at that point the entire discussion is over. Joy Behar is the epitome of Godwin's law that was founded by a lawyer named Mike Godwin back in 1990, and it's a long meme of the use of the internet. And it's just tragic because when people throw that out there, it's really evidence that you have nothing to say, you have no legitimate argument, and you just throw out Hitler and Nazis, and somehow that's supposed to end it all.
Well, okay. Let's talk about Chelsea Handler. Now, Chelsea Handler this week, she says, I think I got a call for on this. Hope Hicks, right there it is, reportedly kept a detailed diary about her time in the White House. So this will be the second time a woman wrote a diary about Nazis, obviously referring to Anne Frank. There's another Lulu, isn't she?
Well, Chelsea Handler loves to walk around without her shirt on. The only person that walks around with a shirt on, I guess more than Chelsea Handler, is Vladimir Putin, and he's actually looking a little better than Chelsea these days. So how marginalized must a person be to pretend to be a comic and come up with great lines like comparing Hope Hicks to somebody who's writing about Nazis? Again, when a person resorts to that, it's because they got nothing. And Chelsea Handler shows that she's got nothing.
And so moving on, we've got Jim Comey this week. And, you know, I call him what the FBI called him, a lot of the guys behind his back, they called him Cardinal Comey because he was so much holier than thou. And he's got this tweet saying, Lordy, this time there will be a tape. Audio book almost finished. Obviously referring to the fact that the conversation with the president, was it or was it not taped? Now he's writing a book. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm anxious to see where it's going to be placed in the bookstores. Will it be in the fiction section? Will it be in the nonfiction section? Or will it be in the CNN fake news section? But Jim Comey is a leaker. I'm surprised he had to write a book. Why didn't he just have his friends at the New York Times write it for him, since he already has supplied most of the information? This guy, it's really sad. I mean, here's a person sworn under the law and sworn under the oath of the FBI to maintain the secrecy and the privacy, but he took property that did not belong to him. It was federal
records.
work property. That's exactly right. And he had no authority to give it away, but he did. And I just wonder, how did he get away with that? Because you wouldn't have gotten away with it. I wouldn't have gotten away with it. He's going to write a book and make money off of it. I got a problem with that.
Okay, and so do you wonder why the president is frustrated with Jeff Sessions, the attorney general, who recused himself from everything? And you know, Rod Rosenstein's running the Department of Justice, but I digress. Now, I got to ask you, I don't know if you heard my open, but when Hillary tweeted this week, the Russians are still coming, I almost fell off my chair. I mean, and there it is. I say this as a former Secretary of State and as an American, the Russians are still coming. I mean, is she out of her mind?
Well, I don't want to go that far because it might be impolite. But let me just say this. I did see the opening. It was terrific. And when Hillary says the Russians are coming, well, nobody would know that better than her. She's the one that's colluded with them. She's the one who sold them the uranium. It was her, Judge, that after all paid those lawyers a bunch of money at Fusion GPS so that they could make up a phony dossier. Of course she knows about the Russians coming. They're coming for her. And right after they come, the little men in the white coats are going to come, and they'll pick her up and retrieve her from the woods near Chappaqua.
Oh, Governor, I hate to end this. Thank you so much for being with us, Governor Huckabee. And if you missed this year's CPAC, I'll take you there for some street justice. That's next. Do you want to go back to the lies, the corruption, the trashing of our Judeo-Christian ethics, and an America overrun by people who actually hate our guts? Do you believe in America? Do you believe in the Constitution? Do you believe in a nation with borders? A strong military? Do you respect law enforcement? Do you believe in law and order? Do you put American citizens before those who have no right to be here? That was part of my speech at CPAC's Ronald Reagan dinner last week. What a weekend it was. But I also took a little time to chat with the great crowd there. Take a look. So here we are at CPAC. Nice hat.
Thank you so much.
Where'd you get that?
Party City, and then I made it great again with a sticker that says Trump Pence.
Does it come in a bigger size?
It might. It might.
I am a lifelong Democrat, turned Trump-licking, now Republican. Thanks to Trump.
Did you say Trump-licking?
Trump-licking, now Republican.
Did you know that was a word, Trump-licking?
Yes, it's a word now.
And guess who I found? A canine. Okay, back to you. All right. Can I ask a question? Okay. My face is very important to me. He's not going to bite me.
She's a lover.
She is a lover. So here we are in the press cage at CPAC, and I just was walking out and I noticed a rather unusual reporter. Hi there. How are you?
Good.
How old are you?
10.
10?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say the important thing. Justice Jeanine writes and speaks the best monologues on TV. She prosecuted
I didn't
Hillary.
tell him to say that. I didn't tell him to say that. I really didn't. So what drew you to politics?
Well, I really like watching the debates and the primaries, so that's really what sparked my inspiration for it.
Think you'll ever run for office?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Because I'm too smart for that.
Because what?
I'm smart enough not to.
Ah, yes you are. And as someone who's run for office 5 times, you are very smart. So how old are you?
I'm 25.
You are?
Yes, I'm 25.
Yeah, you look younger than that. So do I. Not 25, but younger than my age.
Today it's Trump hats everywhere.
That's right.
Supporting the president. The conservative movement has really gotten behind the president more and more.
What do you tell people who don't believe in his agenda?
Are they crazy? Do they need medication? I'm concerned for their well-being.
I think he's doing a great job so far. I think, the speech that he gave today, and he talked about, never letting the American people lose their right to bear arms. He's doing amazing stuff, and he's all the promises that he's made, he kept.
Isn't it amazing? A presidential candidate makes promises and actually keeps them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's
Stunning.
great. It's definitely a lot different than we had before.
An LA Democrat and CPAC in D.C.
Yes, and I will never vote Democrat again.
Now why? Tell me why.
Because they are unrecognizable. They are anti-American. They can't even stand up and clap for low unemployment in the Black and Latino community, low unemployment for women. They can't, really?
Thank you.
I love you.
Why don't you get that on camera? Okay, I love when you go back to school and there are so many young people, millennials, who are so anti-Trump?
It's a little discouraging, but I'm actually my college Republican chair at my school. So, of course, I got to be confident in what I believe in, and I have to go out there and, you know, show people that there's a different side of things. And I think a lot of people like to give a stereotype against Republicans or right-wingers or conservatives.
She's really good. I like her. Zoe, what do you think of Donald Trump? Give him a kiss. Zoe, what do you... Is that the Pledge of Allegiance? Do it again. Do you put your hand on your heart when you do the Pledge of Allegiance? I love you. I love her. What's with the message? It's in my way.
I know, exactly.
We'll be right back.